Hi, welcome back to the Tess Files. My name is Tess and today I've got Winsome and Mac with me and we are going to be discussing section 3 of the GAMSAT, which is my least favourite section, the science section. So I think I'll start with Mac because I feel like you're like the science queen of our little group. How did you prepare for section 3?
I let all of my OCD kind of just go to town and develop this pretty like structured way of going through things. Should I just like
just talk it out. Just tell us,
just talk it out.
Tell us all the things.
So I basically did all the practice questions that I could get my hands on, and after I spent a few like weeks to months, this is probably like in like November kind of time frame, like kind of getting the idea of what they were like and what kind of thing they were asking for, I would then do them under time conditions, and I would kind of, you know, calculate how many questions I wanted to do and then set the amount of time based on the questions. So I wasn't doing the full like 80 questions every time, but I would do them under time conditions, stop when I was out of time, and then I would like go through and mark them, and I had a notebook where I kept all of the answers, and beside everyone I got wrong, I would like write the topic that I was in, like whether it was like physical chemistry, and then I had like a OneNote folder where I would like copy and paste the wrong questions in, and then try to like just work out why I got it wrong, and like what kind of science I needed to know to get there. And a lot of the times you get it wrong because like it's like a stimulus that is just not like it's not like previous knowledge. Yeah. And so you can't really do too much about that, but a lot of the time like it would have helped to have a bit more like basic science knowledge. And this is coming from somebody who did a science degree. Yeah. So I think maybe you were only able to go into that depth if you already had a background.
Yeah, some like pre-existing knowledge to like hang the extra stuff off.
Yeah, so I felt like I could kind of try to cherry pick the bits that I was consistently getting wrong and try to just specifically work on those rather than try to learn all of the science.
Yeah, so you didn't like have to, I'm assuming, go and actually learn the science before you started practice questions. You just started with practice questions and then...
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, and then I could kind of see where I was at and like identify that. Like I didn't know any physics formulas off the top of my head. Like I needed to kind of go back and learn organic chemistry, like what's a keto group, etc.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, we're coming from like such different places with this. Yeah.
And like you are fortunate to have a science background because you can kind of just like avoid a lot of the slog. Yeah. And but like I did biology, so like you know, I wasn't like hadn't done physics since high school.
Yeah. But like the biology and the biochem and stuff would have been like, you would have been pretty good with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So that's like, it sounds like you were like quite methodical, and like it sounded to me like the key thing there was like a bit analysing where you went wrong and then working out how you could have got it right. That sounds to me like you were really
it was really trying to focus on the things that I was getting wrong. Yeah. And also doing them all under time conditions, because like given an amount of time you could have worked anything out. Yeah, true. But it's like trying to work it out in the time frame they give you, I think, is the key thing. Yeah. Yeah. And trying to do that for as long as possible before, not just for a few practice exams before.
Yeah. I'm very jealous of your ability to do that. Here I am, just like, that was just like the worst slog ever, those 3 months.
Yeah. Like I was literally sitting there going like, fuck, no one's gonna get in that doesn't have a science degree. Like,
here we are.
I'm so amazed. Like you definitely had a, like, sorry, but like you had a much harder job than I did.
Yeah, right. Yeah, oh yeah, it was tough. So like I would say that I kind of have a foot in both camps, where I'm kind of, physio is like it's like a clinical science, so I had some science grounding but not specific things. So I might throw it to you, Winsome, to tell us your experience, because you're the complete other end of the spectrum with like no science background at all.
Well, I did do psychology undergrad. Okay. So
that's a science.
Not a science, as my housemate used to tell me. No, so it was really going back to the beginning, and I did have the MediRed books, and they were great because they went through kind of what they saw as the overarching principles for every sort of topic, and I think that was really useful. Yeah. And I used that as a basis, but before that I literally just went through, it was like a YouTube list of Khan Academy videos.
Yeah, I watched so much Khan Academy. Yeah.
And so, you know, mornings before I'd go to work, and this was for months, I think. Like I started studying in September before the March exam.
Oh wow, yeah, okay.
And then, but it was just like, it would be 10 minutes here and there. So yeah, I just found going through the Khan Academy videos really useful because they did kind of build up your kind of depth of knowledge.
Yeah, totally.
But like I even find even these days I'll go back and just use those videos when you just need to clarify that one kind of simple principle. And then I guess it was just kind of practicing, and again doing the time thing was really useful. And I think the practice tests ACE gives you are really good, because what I found is that I'd go through them and sort of try them under test conditions, but then I wasn't too precious about just doing them all again, because I found that I wouldn't even remember the answers, so I'd still have to go and figure them out anyway. But I don't know, it was a bit of a tough slog. And I had like one tutoring session on physics, and I attended like a little course thing on biochem. But beyond that, I don't know, it was just like, it was really just a tough slog. Bashing your head against a brick wall until you kept like the information in.
I can definitely relate to that.
Do you feel like it was good that you learned the kind of basic amount of science you did for the GAMSAT in the end?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
So it's still useful. I mean, especially now, sort of throwing back to that information, we keep referring to things that we've learnt for the GAMSAT. So I found it really useful in med school too.
Oh, definitely. I think it's really funny because when I was studying for the GAMSAT, people that I knew who were doctors were like, oh, this isn't even relevant. Like, you won't even need to know this stuff when you get into med school. But I actually have found the opposite. I found that particularly the biology and the biochem stuff, and even to some extent the chemistry, like organic chemistry stuff, has definitely really come into play. And even now, actually, physics with like the partial pressures.
Not the physics.
No, I feel like we're doing respiratory at the moment, and so there's a lot of physics and physical chemistry as well, like diffusion and those sorts of things. So so it actually is relevant. So maybe use that to comfort yourself if you're kind of in that slog right now and be like, this is actually part of my future degree, will come in handy. Yeah, interesting. So I was kind of, I had a science background in that I'd done some basic physiology as part of physio, and I'd done chemistry and biology in year 12. So I had like that very basic knowledge, but I think I probably went about it probably the wrong way the first time I sat the GAMSAT, because I literally sat there with like the Des O'Neill books and like learned the theory and like barely did any practice questions the first time, which was like such a rookie error, because I just was so like head bogged down in trying to understand the topics that I just couldn't even consider doing practice questions. And I actually didn't do that poorly, but it definitely wasn't competitive the first time I did it. And then the second time I was like, right, no, like theory out of the way, I'm just going to slog out these practice questions. But I've spoken before about how I did have a tutor, and I really needed that. I needed somebody to teach me, but in the context of the practice question. So I would do a question, and then if I got it wrong, he would be like, probably kind of like how you did it, but without being self-taught with someone else teaching me. And he'd be like, well, this is the theory and this is how you got that wrong. And then for me it was the abstract thinking that was super hard as well, because you said that some of the stimulus doesn't relate to any sort of basic science. It's just pattern recognition and
like a lot of it, and it seems to be going more in that direction.
Definitely.
And it is, again, it's looking at the paper and finding the answer based on the information that you have. So I think sometimes that was kind of useful, not having a whole heap of background knowledge, because you were completely dependent on what was on the paper.
Yeah, that's true actually, and the answer is always on the page. That's something that someone told me, which is sometimes helpful but sometimes frustrating if you can't find the answer regardless.
I found a lot of the practice questions so they gave me the idea that I needed to memorize all of these physics formulas, like for like you know, the force when something goes around a circle, whatever it's called, centripetal force, and like all of these like astronomical like formulas.
That's the impression you
That's
got.
the impression I got from the practice questions, because sometimes you needed to know those formulas, and then in the GAMSAT I didn't use a single physics formula.
No, and they give them to you, but from my experience, like they tend to, if you need a formula, they'll give it to you somewhere on the page. And sometimes I found that it would be like a really random formula that you've never even heard of, but you're applying basic principles to that. So they kind of they want to give you something you've never seen, so that you can then apply basic things. So I definitely wouldn't go like memorizing formulas and things.
No, but I guess you need to learn. You need to be able to use them.
That's right. You still need to be able to practice.
So the practice.
So for that, my biggest problem was running out of time. Because the first time I did it, I literally had to put just C for an entire column, because I was like not gonna make it. And I have friends who have said that if they saw a physics question, they'd just be like, low yield, mark a with any sort of answer and then come back to it if they had time.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
But even on the second time, I was pretty pressed for time.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious about whether you guys
Yeah.
were as well.
I was the same. First time I think it was probably like the last 15 questions or something.
Yeah.
And I was like properly obliterated by that point. Like it's the end of a really long day. My brain was mush and I basically almost burst into tears because I've run out of time and had to put C for the last 15 questions.
Oh, no.
I feel like they must make none of those answers C just because they know everyone's going to do that. Maybe pick another answer if you're going to do that. But the second time I finished, and that probably is representative of that's the score. That's the time I got the score that I needed because I finished and I probably had like 10 minutes to spare. Not that I did too much in that time, but I just felt comfortable enough that I finished. But what about you?
Yeah, I finished as well, but like with enough time to spare to go through and look at some of the tricky ones that I kind of felt like I'd spent too long on.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I remember kind of going through and like keeping track of like what question I was up to and like what time.
Yeah.
So I
that's
I wrote
Yeah.
down, I was like, I can't remember what it was, but you know, every 20 minutes you need to do this many questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
So
if
you
I
just-
was,
Yeah.
and then you kind of roughly know how long to spend on each question,
Mm.
and then you're like, this is too long, next.
Yeah.
And so I think at the end I had time to go back and look at a few of them.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
that's good. Yeah, I can definitely vouch for that. Someone, I can't remember it now, like how many questions and how many minutes or whatever, but when you've got your little answer sheet, you should, when you get it, you should write the time, like actually calculate the actual time of the day
Yeah,
and put that at the bottom of every column, and you need to be keeping to time. And if it is hard though, because the flip side of that is that you get stressed if you're not keeping to time. So I would find that like at the start of the test, I'd be like keeping to time, I'm okay. And then like by midway through, I'm getting tired, I'm not keeping to time, and then I would stress a little bit. So use it as a loose guide, but I think it is important because some questions you just get stuck on, and it's like, it is kind of, you know, 1 or 2 questions there, it's low yield, like move on, it's worth 1 mark, move on, but just don't do that for too many questions. Yeah.
The best advice that I got, which I did, and I think it's the reason I did well on my first go, is so for 4 weekends before the GAMSAT, on a Saturday, I went to the library and did like the full practice exam.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
So I did like the 2-hour paper for section 1, the 1-hour paper for section 2, then I had like an hour break, and then I went and did the 3-hour paper for section 3.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And like it fucking sucked. Okay, and then I would spend the Sunday going through and marking everything.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so I did that for 4 weekends by the time I got to the GAMSAT. So when I actually got to the GAMSAT, it was like the 5th time I did the GAMSAT.
Yeah.
And it was almost a relief to know it was the last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I felt like in my mind I had like a good idea of the pace I had to go at. Like
Yeah,
I actually
right.
I slowed down section 1 based on that,
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
and like kind of had an idea of
Yeah.
how long I could spend on each question for section 3.
Yeah.
So I could kind of just know whether I was ahead or behind.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's
'Cause
very impressive.
I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I think I meant to do it.
Okay,
And
yeah.
maybe did one kind of to time test.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I struggled.
I was just like, I was so adamant that
yeah.
I just wanted
Gonna do this
to
one
do
time.
everything I could for the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Good on you.
I was driven probably not necessarily by positive things.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's expensive. You don't want
It
to
is.
take
Yeah,
that more
it was a lot of that. I was like,
It's
500
so much
bucks.
money.
Yeah, and it's like so much time that you dedicate to it, and I have to say I kind of am sitting in the middle too, camp. So I did that same thing, but I did it just for the 2 weekends before the GAMSAT. So when I did it, it was the 3rd, and I did that in the second time because the first time I did it, I was, like I said before, absolutely shattered. Like I felt like I'd physically run a marathon after being there the whole day. It's just like such a long day, and it's pretty epic. And so yeah, I definitely would advocate for training for it, and I think like working full time, and I would like study before work, study after work, that sort of thing. It's just like that mental capacity to concentrate for like 9 hours in a row is really important.
And having said that, the first time I did GAMSAT, I drank too much coffee at lunchtime.
Oh.
And then had to use some of my section 3 time to go to the bathroom.
Oh no!
So that's something
That's
I
why.
was planning in my practices as well. I was
Right,
like, when am I
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
have coffee? How many liters of water can I drink?
Oh my gosh!
Like legit,
Yeah, yeah.
legit, because like I felt like if I had to go to the bathroom in section 3,
Yeah.
that means you're not going to finish
Yeah.
the test.
Well, exactly.
And like that's so ridiculous. That like a physical factor like that.
That was out of
that
absolutely.
was my
Yeah.
Out of the question for me.
Yeah.
Like going to the
Endurance.
toilet, going to the toilet was not an option.
No.
So I was really strategic in my break about the amount of sugar that I ate and when. So I would like have my lunch right at the start of the break, then I would drink like a Gatorade to rehydrate or something,
Yeah.
and then I would have like a Mars bar just before I went in, and go to the toilet just before I went in, so that there was like not a chance that I would need to go. And if that did happen, I would hold it. Like I had no intention of leaving my seat.
It's a very visceral test.
Yeah, it really is. I know. I think this is kind of broaching a little bit on like mental health and the GAMSAT. Like I think we've spoken a little bit before about like how you maintain your mental health, because mine was like, I was pretty low throughout that full 3 months that I studied. Like, how did you guys handle the whole process?
I did a lot of mindfulness.
Yeah. Good.
And I found that really useful just for on the test day, kind of, since I'd been doing it for so long, it was such an easy reflex to just sit and sort of spend a few minutes doing mindfulness, so that you could really focus in and not have that first few minutes of panic.
Yeah, that's good.
I found that good.
Yeah.
What else? I don't know, because we were talking about not really having people to study with.
Yeah.
And I did try to find people, but in the end, kind of never.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a solo journey,
Yeah.
the whole GAMSAT thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, mindfulness I think is definitely a good thing, because on the day you can feel really panicked, so that's a good thing to bring yourself back to. What about you? Did you just cry for 3 months? Or?
Well, I think for me, like, I knew there was an end date to the insanity, and so I kind of like let myself do a controlled tailspin that fueled my studying.
Yeah.
Like I've never really been an anxious person, but I definitely started developing a lot of very anxiety type symptoms over this time, for the first time ever. But I kind of used that to then go and sit in a library for like 8 hours straight.
To like fuel you.
But like by the time the GAMSAT was there, I was in a pretty poor state, and like I'm pretty lucky that my boyfriend and I did not break up. Like I was not myself. Like, it was very self-centered and very unhealthy. So I should have probably tried to cope better, but I think I just didn't recognize that I was acting in a very like unsustainable and unhealthy way, because I just hadn't got that crazy before.
I mean, it's really high pressure, and there's a lot at stake, because it's money, it's time, and if you really want to be a doctor, it's like that one thing that's, or one of the couple of things that's standing in your way.
There's like no alternate path.
No, you have to do this. And I can totally relate. I think the time that I got the score that I wanted, I was really, again, like almost manically determined
to
like,
manic.
to not do this again. And I was like, I managed that by control. So I was like scheduling my days out within minutes of everything, and you know, putting a lot of pressure on people around me, I think, to kind of support me. You know, my parents probably had a lot of very sad phone calls from me being like, I can't do this, I don't know how I'm going to make it through these months, because it just felt like a very long time, and I did only study for the minimum time. I think it was 3 months that I studied for. So I guess
well, my mother tried to call me during the lunch break of the first exam, and I was like, no.
Do not. Oh, really? See, here I was like calling my parents frantically. I'm like, I'm out. This is how it went. Like,
I couldn't cope.
Pretty intense. And listened to very calming music in the lunch break. Like, tried to meditate and stretch and just de-stress.
But like, having said that, those skills dealing with pressure are pretty important, and I think we're finding them pretty important now.
Like so much. And the rest of the it's like you think it's going to be over after the GAMSAT, but I would say the time after the GAMSAT was even worse for my mental health. Waiting for the results, and then waiting for interviews, and then waiting to hear if you got in.
It's a very long, it's almost like a year-long process essentially of like this.
It was more than a year.
And like putting all your eggs in one basket, and you're like trying to make decisions with your life, not knowing what the outcome's going to be with med. So I guess we can relate to all of you out there who are doing this and battling through right now. It is really tough, and I think that like, don't get down on yourself if you're having a tough time with it, because it's pretty normal. I think most people I've spoken to had a bit of a tough time through the GAMSAT, and you know, now that we're in med school, it's definitely not like that, but it's still stressful, and we still have times where we're cramming for exams. Circa now, we are about 4 weeks out from our next exam, and it does get really stressful. So you need to have those strategies to be able to manage the workload. And
It's a good learning experience.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Character building.
But also not the end of the world.
Exactly, and that's it. If you don't get in the first time, you know, we're kind of proof as well that you can do it many times and still get in, and we know people that have sat it even more times than us as well. So if it's something that you really want, then keep sticking at it, because I think that you'll get there in the end.
And your like mental health, like you're gonna be so good at keeping it together.
Yes.
Under stress.
Absolutely, you're going to be so resilient
Yeah.
that when you do get into med school, you're just going to like trounce everybody else's resilience levels.
Yeah.
So we were talking about how at courses people would say, this is my 5th time sitting it, and you'd be like on your 1st or 2nd and just be freaking out. because of
Yeah,
that. But
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
You can just sit it once.
You can just sit it once.
If you let your manic energy drive you to the absolute brink of distraction.
Yeah, there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum. Okay, well, I think that's it. I just hope that you guys really enjoyed our like just Saturday afternoon gossip sesh, and I hope that we were able to kind of give you some good tips that you can utilize on your next sitting of the GAMSAT. And I guess we want to wish you all the best of luck. Hopefully you're going to be our colleagues someday. Hopefully we're going to be doctors someday.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's it. So thanks very much for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.